So we're going to look at chapter 2, section 7, which is the last section of this chapter. You will be having a test next week. Just FYI, the sections for the test will be 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.5, 2.6, 2.7. There was no 2.4, so just kind of a heads up on that. Today we're going to be looking primarily at angle-pair relationships, okay? So let's take a look at the first questions. It says, what do you know about angle 1 and angle 2? I'm sorry, that was kind of off, but main idea is there, angle 1 and angle 2. So if I take a look, this is angle 1, this is angle 2. What do I know about those two angles? Yes, sir?
Added together, they make 180 degrees.
Very good. Added together, they equal 180 degrees, which makes them what kind of angles? That's right. So they're supplementary angles. And yeah, if I go the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2, it equals 180 degrees. Okay. What other two angles are supplementary? Can you name some? Looking at this picture, angle 1 and angle 2. 4 and 3 are supplementary. 2 and 3. 1 and 4. That's right. Again, they form that line. So these two, and I add them together, equal that line. Okay, good. Let's take a look at angle 1 and angle 3. So here's angle 1, here's angle 3. What do I know about them? They're okay, they look obtuse. They do. I'm looking more at relationships with each other. They're what? They're opposite. They have a special name, though. Yes.
Symmetrical.
Good guess. They're not symmetrical. It starts with a V. They're angles.
Vertical.
They're vertical angles. And vertical angles, what do we know about them? They are the same. Yep, they're congruent. So these are vertical angles. So angle 1 is congruent to angle 3, or we could say the measure of angle 1 equals the measure of angle 3. Notice that when we're dealing with measure, they're equal, but if we're naming the angles, they're congruent. And so 1 is congruent to 3. Are there any other vertical angles? Yes. 2 and 4 are also vertical angles. And it's really important to be able to visualize those and know that they are congruent because it's going to pop up a lot. Okay. Questions on this? Okay, let's keep going. So it asks you to solve for x and y. Let's take a look at these. So I need to solve, what do we want to do? How do you want to solve these? What are some relationships we can come up with? Yeah.
16y plus 6x, 6 parentheses x plus 2 parentheses equals 180.
Very good. Okay, so one relationship we can say is that 6 parentheses x plus 2 parentheses plus 16y equals 180 degrees. And I know that because they are a linear pair, they're supplementary, they form that line, right? Okay. So if I wanted to solve for x and y, what would be the first step that we would do on this? Yeah, distribute. Yep, so we can distribute. 6x plus 12 plus 16y equals 180. What would be the next step? Subtract 12. Subtract 12. 6x plus 16y equals 168. Okay? Now, can I solve for x and y? I can't. I've got a problem, don't I? Because I have two variables. I don't have another equation where I could do, substitution or elimination. So I have a problem there. I like what I have and I can use it, but right now it's not helping me. So I've got to go off to the side and I got to do something else. So where's some other relationships there that I could use? Yeah.
18y minus
Okay, I could say that these two, if I add them together, equals 180. I could. There's an easier relationship I could do there. Yes, ma'am.
18y minus 18 equals 16y.
That's right. This angle right here and this angle right here, they're congruent because they're what type of angles? They're vertical angles. Yeah, so I'm going to take 18y minus 18, set it equal to 16y. Now I need to use some algebra. What do you want to do to solve for y? Yes. Add.
18.
Okay, sure. 18y equals 16y plus 18. Then, yes, subtract 16y. 2y equals 18. Y gives me 9. That's one way of doing it. You could have also, at this step right here, you could have subtracted, I'm sorry, not that step here. Yeah, sorry, this step right here. I could have subtracted 18y and gotten negative 2y and then divided by negative 2. So that's another way of solving it, but this is great. I solved for y. Now that I got y, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that and I'm going to bring it up here. And I'm going to put 9 right here. And I'm going to carry on with this problem. Okay, so 16 times 9 is 144, 34, boop, equals 168. And then I subtract. 6x gives me 34. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then what am I going to do? Divide by x gives me 16 times 9, I got 44. Yeah, this is 44. I was going to say something doesn't look right. So this is a 44, and this gives me 24. So then I get 4. Okay. So notice how we set up one relationship, was totally legit, totally could do it in the pink, got to a point where, okay, I've got a problem. I got too many variables. So I go to the other one and I'm like, you know what? I've got two variables, but they're the same. So I can set them equal to each other. Questions on that? Excellent. Let's go to the next one. It says to draw this. Don't worry about drawing it. We can take that off. We're going to look at some angle relationships. So first it says, if measure of angle 4 is 40, then what's 6? So let's go down to the measure of angle 4. And this is 40 degrees. They want to know what the measure of angle 6 is. So they want to know what this is. So what would be the measure of angle 6? It would be 40 also. And why? They're vertical angles, right? Yeah, so this is also 40 degrees. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to go 40. And something I want to bring to your attention. So I'm going to come back up here. I'm going to erase that. I'm going to put 40 degrees here. Now, one thing to be careful for. There are times where the angles are so close together and there's so many lines running all over the place. It's hard to see vertical angles. Okay? So this is how we do it. So this was the 40 degrees that we were looking at. Here's one side of the 40 degrees. Notice it's hugging the side of angle of the 6. And then the other side of the 40 is hugging the other side of 6. So that's how I know they're vertical angles. Sometimes that angle 1 looks like it could be vertical, but notice that the two lines are hugging those two angles, and that's why they're vertical. So angle 1, notice it's touching one side of angle 1, but it's not touching the other side of angle 1. So I encourage you to look at it that way too, or highlight it to kind of see vertical angles a little bit closer. All right, so I'm going to get rid of those. Let's go down. Let's answer a few more questions. It says GXB is 90. So let's go back up. GXB. So GXB. Remember, X is in the middle, so that's our vertex. Okay, and it says that this is how many degrees? 90 degrees. Now, what could I do to mark that angle as 90 degrees? Little square box, right? Okay, so I'm going to go through here and I'm going to go, okay, that's 90 degrees. And they want to know the measure of angle DXB. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go DXB. So how many degrees would this be then? It'd be 90 degrees, right? Why? It's what? They're supplementary, right? Absolutely. Yep, they're supplementary. So I'm going to come down here then, and I'm going to go, okay, if I have 180 degrees and I subtract 90 degrees, I get 90 degrees. And so this is 90 degrees. Questions? Okay, and then finally, GXC is 134. So GXC, that is 134 degrees. And they want to know angle 3. So they want to know, I'm going to change the color. They want to know this right here. So what do I need to do to find the measure of angle 3? Yes. That's correct. So I'm going to take 180 minus 134, and I get 46 degrees. Notice that I have degree markings. Notice that on the last two problems, I had to manipulate numbers to get the answer. Make sure that if you manipulate numbers in any way to get the number, you show the work. So like the first one, angle 40, I say they're vertical angles. Vertical angles are congruent. I don't need to show work on that. But the bottom two, I do. I need to manipulate those numbers to get my answer, so I need to show that somehow. Questions? Okay, let's move on. This problem is in your homework. There's a little bit missing in this, so I'm going to help you fill this in. So they're going to give you in the problem that angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. Sometimes they do this as a written given. Sometimes what they do in the picture itself is they will mark it up like this. And then you're going to notice that they're going to ask you to prove that angle 2 is congruent to angle 4. And you're going to notice that in the proof, that's at the bottom. That's right here. This is what you're trying to prove. Okay. So let's go back up to this problem. What do I write down for the first line? Absolutely. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. I got that from the given right here. Yep, I got that right there. And that's what you always put down for the first line. And the reason is going to be given. Okay? Now, what are some other relationships that I can see? Because you're going to notice that right here it says vertical angles congruent. What are some other angles that I could say, yeah, they're congruent? Yeah.
3 and 4.
Sure. So angle 3 is congruent to angle 4. And it is vertical angles are congruent. Notice that when they have the reason, they don't just put vertical angles, but they also put congruent, because angles can be congruent, they can be complementary, and they can be supplementary. So you want to make sure you put that congruence on the end. Don't just write vertical angles. Okay? So I got that done. What other relationship would happen in this picture? What are some other things I could write? angle 1 is congruent to 2. Why? Very good. Yeah, I also know that 1 and 2 are also congruent. So help me out now. What do you think the reason would be for number 4? I'm not going to write prove. Okay, that's not what I'm looking for. Yes. Pardon? I'm not going to put given. That's a good guess. Up here, the only thing that's given to me is right here. So can't put given. Yes. I can put transitive. If you remember, that's kind of like the Oreo cookie, right? I can kind of put the two ends together. What else could I do? Transitive or substitution. It's not always transitive or substitution. In this circumstance, either one of them would work. Okay, so you're going to notice that if we look a little bit closer, this is like the Oreo cookie, okay? And these two are like the double stuff that I took out, and then I put the two together. And I can say that 1 is congruent to 3 because of the given that they gave me. Okay, so that's why I can do the transitive property. Questions? All right, let's go ahead and let's take a look at the assignment that you're going to work on for today.